And we're live. All right. So as you can tell, I've not shaven in a couple of days. I'm waiting until Friday to shave. Get
Why
my
Friday?
because I always shave before the Georgia game, the day before.
Uh,
Superstition. So, and I've caught it for I haven't shaved in 2 weeks. So this is what it looks like. It's pretty nice. Look at the neck beard.
uh,
Pretty nice.
Duck Dynasty, you're not. Like just
No, no. This is more mom's side of the family. Anyway, all right, so Georgia, Florida. It's not Florida, Georgia. Let's get into it. The biggest thing to me so far of this week, and I know you don't pay attention to it, is the media and the way that they're playing this game. And I know we've talked about it briefly a couple of times. And we'll get into final score predictions and all that good stuff. I just don't know why the media is doing this thing where they go, well, Georgia, oh, they're on upset alert. Look out. Here come the Florida Gators. Um, Florida's not a good team. Their record looks really good, but Florida is not good. So they can do whatever they want to do, and they're going to be right sooner rather than later. Obviously, I mean, one day Georgia is going to lose a football game. It's going to happen. I don't think they are just wasted. I now nobody's going to watch after this. I don't think that Georgia's going to lose this game. I think Georgia's going to cover the spread. Everything that Florida does well is something that Georgia does really well. There's nothing there that Florida does that's any better. Um, and I'm tired of people using the transferative property or whatever the hell it's called um, to justify that Florida could pull off this upset. Georgia has played with this food all year. The only time that it didn't was against Kentucky, and because that was a test. And everyone said that week, oh well, Kentucky upset, look out. And then look what happens, and they just keep moving the goalpost. Um, so you can get off your chest whatever you want, but that's been bothering me, and it feels good to finally say.
well, I can tell you why that the media, national media, is saying that. Number one, they're trying to drive interest in the game because it's 3:30 on CBS. That's number one.
Sure.
Number two, Georgia hasn't been inconsistent. I can see why the casual fan who, I don't know, sees that Florida has a couple of big wins and looks pretty good for 2 weeks in a row. Why they're wanting to say and Florida could beat Georgia. We know that that's the case. They
Well,
could. We've seen weird stuff happen where the better team
sure,
loses down there.
sure, but that's
Um,
not okay.
am I going to be
I
able
mean that's not the
to?
case anymore, and it's
Well,
not.
here's what
Okay,
I'm saying. I can see how the casual fan and the national media who's not so involved in all this and didn't have they're supposedly they're more objective, but I would also they're probably a little bit uneducated. I can see why they would say that. I don't know if Georgia covered the spread. I don't even know it was 14 and a half. Where is it now?
yeah, it's 14 and a half.
It's held.
Yeah,
I don't, I doubt Georgia will cover the spread. That's what I would say. Have they covered all year? No. Could they cover? They have the talent to cover? Yes, even with Brock Bowers being out. On paper, Georgia should win this game and win it by double digits. Whether or not that will happen, I think they'll win the game. I don't think they'll cover. That's what I say.
yeah.
I
Well,
know
I
we're
mean, oh, go ahead.
getting way ahead, but
Well, I guess we can. This kind of goes to what we need to do, but like, uh, what does Florida do offensively really well? It's sideline to side. Well, you're not. You're shaking your head like they don't do anything. That's correct, but they throw it sideline to sideline. And they try to get their players in space. What's the one thing that Georgia defense has done really well all year? Then this defense hasn't been that good. Hasn't been as good as it usually has. But what is one thing this defense does really well?
Well, I'm going to turn it
Cover
around and look
sideline to
at it.
sideline.
I'm going to turn it around and ask you to maybe look at it a little bit differently. What has Georgia had a tendency to do? Turn the ball over, get field goals instead of 7, give
Right.
up red zone points, let a momentum play, big play, let somebody hang around into the game. You know what I mean? Let them score on 3rd and 16. All I'm saying is I agree with you. I don't think Florida matches up, as I said, on paper. But these big time rivalry games in a neutral setting oftentimes turn on, Kirby even said it, they're momentum type of games. Carson Beck makes a boneheaded pick. Dejan fumbles, puts it on the ground. Muse fumbles it. Georgia can't stop them inside the red zone, give them a short field. Offense give them a short field. I can see how Florida could hang in this game. I can also see a way that Georgia just smashes them because would you say that that Kentucky plays a more similar style
Yes.
than as Georgia? I would
Yes.
too. They ran all over them.
Yes.
So if Georgia chooses, to me, one of the interesting things I'm going to see is I think you're right. You said it you said it several weeks back. Georgia's offense is a pass first offense.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
But they've got to be able to run to be effective. And I'm going to be real interested to see if Georgia's with Bowers out, if Kirby and Bobo says, "Hey, we're going to pound the shit out of this thing, and we're going to get that big old boy, 400 and something pounds."
No, yeah, that
By the
fat
fourth
ass.
quarter, his
I'd
tongue's
break
going to
his
be
knees.
laying on the what's his name?
Watson, I think. I don't know. I don't give a shit.
His tongue's
Roadkill.
going to be hanging on the grass, and we're just going to run all over their asses. Now, I have no idea, but that's what I would like to see happen. But that doesn't mean that it will. But I think physically, Kirby also mentioned he says this is a physical game. So I think that's what we need to come out and try to establish early on.
And he's always said the team. It was a couple of years ago when he was talking about the rivalry. He said the team that runs the ball the most effectively usually wins this game.
I think
which is true.
Yeah, go back and look. I think it's the team that runs for the most yardage. I don't
usually
think
wins.
I think it's like
a vast majority.
Yeah.
Aaron Murray talked about this on his podcast with No Sean and Ben Jones and TK. Bobo, his bread and butter is to run and play action pass. I think that's what we're about to see. Without Bowers, and I know a lot. Like that's another thing too. The Georgia fans hand wringing over. Like I see it on Twitter every day because I'm dealing with all that social, with Dawgs social media stuff. People are like, "Well, Georgia's going to lose. I know one day it's going to happen." Shut up. You have no idea. All these teams that we're playing down the road were way more talented than. Without Brock Bowers, Oscar Deb would be the top tight end for all these teams that we're about to face. Nothing has changed. I mean, yeah, we lost the best player in the country. It changes, but Georgia's still head and shoulders above all the competition that they're about to play. So the hand wringing that Georgia's, just going to crumble without Brock Bowers is ridiculous. Now, if Carson Beck was hurt, which God forbid, if that ever happens, it'd be one thing because the quarterback's a much bigger, bigger. He touches the ball every play. Bowers, 15 plays, 15, 20 plays?
Probably, yeah.
So, and we talked about it last week. The best thing that happened for this Georgia team was that Bowers got hurt before the bye week. Bought him enough time to get used to everything that Bowers isn't going to be there. So I don't have any concerns of the Georgia offense. I think
it'd be spread out more to the wide receiver.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah. I'm hoping that Ladd is back and healthy and we're starting to round. I'm hoping that Mims, if he's not back this week, I'm hoping he's back next week. We got to get some guys.
Well, he was supposed to be further ahead than Truss was. That's the talk.
Who I thought it was the exact opposite of that, but I don't
Well,
know.
then you might be right, and I heard it wrong. I don't know, but we're gonna get one of the guys back.
Kendall Milton, I'm hoping that was more precautionary taking him out. I was listening to Jim Donnan the other night, and he said, I think once that happened to Bowers, Kirby was like, hey, let's get the shit out of here, and he didn't even want to take a chance to put Milton, even though he probably could have gone. Now, he didn't say that last part, I did, but I'm just hoping that we can get healthy because we're going to need all hands on deck going down the stretch. Good news is it gave us time. The first half of the way that the schedule was, everybody talked about it being light, and it is. But who would have picked Missouri?
Yeah, nobody.
Yeah, who would have picked Ole Miss? Ole Miss has lost to Bama, and who else?
They beat LSU. Who did they lose to?
Well, they lost to Bama.
Well, I know that, but they beat LSU. They almost lost to Tulane.
I think have they only lost one game?
No, they made. I think no. Really?
I think they may have. I'm gonna look up why this is probably not good podcast etiquette, but I'm gonna look it up.
I don't think they've lost outside of Alabama. I think you're right. They came close against Tulane. They came close against Auburn. They beat LSU. They beat Tech.
Yeah, I think they've only lost one game as well. But yeah, so my point is first half of the season allowed us to build depth, get young people playing time, allowed us, honestly, afforded us the ability to start slow, be able to come back from behind. But now this is going to be a gauntlet. Nobody would have picked friggin' Ole Miss Missouri
to be number 2 in the East.
Yeah, they've only lost one game, Chief.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And
So
if LSU beats Alabama, Ole Miss would be first in the West.
Yeah. So LSU has lost 2 games.
Yeah. Only one conference game though.
Right. Yeah. I'm just looking at the stand. But point is, and then we go to Knoxville. This gauntlet that's coming up by far is not that easy of a stretch, and they're back to back to back. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not easy, but I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm drunk still off of 2021, 2022, but I just know watching, and I know I'm biased, but I watch Georgia week in, week out. To me, there's not really a team out there that scares me, even with Brock Bowers out. And I might eat crow later down the road, and I might be devastated. But damn, I'd rather be devastated than already assume the position. That's how we were whenever we had Mark Richt. It's a different era, and I'm tired of the hand wringing and the.
I'm not hand wringing. I'm
not saying you, but I'm saying the 20 people that listen to this. If you are one of those people, you need to get your head straight.
But you asked me, I could very easily, just because of how this schedule's shaping up and how, based on how I've seen Georgia play, I believe they can be really good, but they have not consistently put it together. Now Bowers is out. Now we got the toughest part of the schedule. All that is to say, I could see us dropping one of these games, and I hope I'm wrong.
Josh Pate thinks so too, and I trust him on his opinion. I think he's kind of more of a level-headed guy. But he's over there. He picked Florida to cover and Georgia to barely win. He thinks this is going to be a 4-quarter fight. I don't know what he saw. I don't know what people – but this has been all year with Florida. This is what's driving me crazy. I watch Florida and I go, well, this is not a good football team. Like, they got lucky against South Carolina. South Carolina's got problems.
That offensive line, how many sacks they give up, right?
I don't know. Florida's offensive line gives up a ton of sacks. They're the worst third down offense in the country. Guess who's the best third down defense in the country?
I do know that.
Georgia.
So you know what the percentage is? I heard it today.
No, I wrote about it. It's like 20%.
23.
Yeah, it's low. So all these things I keep seeing, but the media and people who are supposed to be analysts are supposed to be way smarter than us. they sit there and they go, oh well, look out for Florida, and they've done this every week. Florida's just not good. I don't know what to tell everybody. I don't know. I might be arrogant. I could be eating crow. Florida fans might find this and make fun of me, which fine, whatever. I'll already be dead by the time that happens. But
what happens? Florida fans finding this or what?
yeah, making fun of me. Yeah, I'll already jump off a bridge if Georgia loses. So
let's not start doing that shit. It'll be bad, but I'm not going to jump off my foot.
if we lose to Florida, well, I'm not. If we lose to Florida,
it will be very depressing.
It'd be. I would be ready to fold up. I'd be ready to pack it up and let's get to spring ball.
It has ruined many of our Disney World trips.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
and I have found myself taking a very hot shower and crawling in a fetal position.
It's not a good feeling. Let's get off the subject of me ranting, getting angry. I have gotten, even today, whenever I was driving to the grocery store, I was getting myself fired up.
So what do you think the key for Georgia, what do you got to see early on? I've got a couple of things that I've got to see early on that is going to tell me kind of how the flow of the game is going to go.
I need for Georgia to get a stop, like a stop early. I need Georgia to run the ball consistently. And Florida is one of the worst run defenses in the country. And that's like the SEC. Mississippi State's defense is god awful. I need to see Georgia pound the ball. I need them to make easy completions, kind of get Carson settled in there. I need Georgia to score in the first two possessions. If we do that and we stop them, and we get another scoring drive, Florida will quit, and we'll be on our way.
Well, I don't disagree with anything you just said, but I'm going to be looking at third down, and I guess in a lot of ways I'm looking at first and second down. Can we keep it third and manageable so we're not putting Carson and all the guys that are trying to step up for Bowers, who's usually been the security blanket? Can we keep the chains moving? Can we run the ball? Can we tire Florida out? That's on offense. I'm looking I don't know if it's pound and ground, but I'm looking for us to establish dominance in the run game at first.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Florida has the depth. I don't think those boys are in the shape that we are. And I think once we start running into them and keep them on the field, I think by the third and fourth quarter, Josh Payton, where he thinks it might be a ball game, I can see it not being a ball game.
Well, yeah, and this is the thing that I've thought about. I think Dejon Edwards, I think the prop bet is 110 yards or 100 yards, something like that. I think he's probably going to run over 100, probably more. Florida's run defense is one of the worst. I watched film. I'm not a big fan of him, but Brooks Austin, he did a whole breakdown of Florida's defense, and with my elementary level knowledge of football,
they're not good.
They are not good.
No, you can't. I mean, I don't have to be great at X's and O's to see that what Kentucky did to them was embarrassing, man. It was really, and that's the other thing. Feed these running backs. I don't care if, like you said, Dejon, Kendall, Roderick's supposed to be back. Is it Andrew Paul back? Use all of them. I don't know. All I'm saying is run the damn ball and keep the ball. Just keep churning down first downs, and I believe we can open this thing up in the second half. Defensively, make them kick field goals, man.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Don't allow the big play and make them drive the ball down the field. Don't give them the short field. If we can convert third downs, and our offense is one of the best at third down conversions.
Yeah, Florida's defense is the worst.
And we had a lot of damn practice early on in the year. So
we did.
We should be good. But so third down conversions on both sides of the ball are big, and Georgia's got our red zone defense has got to get better. And
it's got to get a lot better.
If we can do those two things, Georgia should win this game rather comfortably. It's going to be, I think, double digits. I don't know if it'll be 14, but it'll be.
I think There are two possible scenarios, and again, at the end of this, we'll get into predictions. But I think there's two possibilities here. I think one, Georgia wins by double digits, but it seemed a lot closer than what it was. Meaning that
Good. Yep.
fourth quarter they finally score, and it's like
Sort of
okay,
like that
now
South Carolina game, right?
exactly where you can kind of breathe a little bit. But that whole third quarter, mid fourth quarter, you're like, well, they can come back any moment. There's that scenario, and then there's the other scenario where it's just a murder. It's just a splattering.
I'm voting
And
for that one.
I'm voting for that one too. It'd make me very happy. I think those are the two scenarios here. I usually have a pretty good gut feeling I'm holding a no sucker for my baby. But I have a good feeling on these games. Like the South Carolina game, I knew it was going to be, kind of dogfight. Uh, I knew the Auburn game. I know my score, but I saw a way that this game could be, or that game could have been a tight one. Um, I usually have a pretty good gut feeling on this. I have not really wavered at all in my thinking all week, which it's Thursday night. That usually tells me a pretty good thing.
Well, let me ask you this, kind of going. We don't have to go too far down this topic, but out of all the remaining games, Florida, Missouri, Tennessee,
Yeah.
Ole Miss, well, we won't even mention Tech, bless their heart.
Mm-hmm.
Which one do you think is going to be the toughest game?
The scariest game to me, and I've said it. I said it early in the season. I think that Ole Miss game. I know we talked about it last week. I think that Ole Miss scares me.
More than Tennessee?
Way more than Tennessee. I don't think
Uh,
Tennessee's that good. Tennessee runs the ball. They're not throwing
At home, they're
offense.
a different team, though. So this is that
Okay.
out of all of them, the Tennessee going to Knoxville, it'll be a
I'm glad
night
you
game.
respect Neyland. It might not be. It might be a
You know,
3:30 game. It might not be. I
well,
don't know. We'll
either way,
see.
it's going to be a big environment.
Yeah, I would agree. But I think that Ole Miss game is going to be the one where we're really going to be biting down hard. I think that's going to be the game. I honestly, Missouri does not. They're good and they can do things that can be.
Offensively, they're good.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't know. I just don't think they have the athletes to compete with Georgia. Not now.
And they also got to come to our box. That's tough to do. If they do
Yeah,
it,
that's
hats
really tough
off.
to do. But I mean, Ole Miss is coming in to Sanford Stadium, but I think that shit does not bother Lane Kiffin at all. Actually, I think Lane Kiffin enjoys it.
No, I
Uh,
totally. And him and Kirby know each other, and he knows what stresses Kirby's defense.
yeah, that is the one game that worries me the most out of all the games. I would probably rank that one. I would rank mm, Tennessee 2, Missouri 3, Florida 4.
Well, let me ask you. Let me tell you this.
Actually, it might be 5. I would actually give Tech more of a chance than Florida, if we're being honest.
Really, nah.
Um,
They don't have the same type of athletes, man, that Florida
no,
has.
they don't. I was being mean, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I think they're Florida and Tech are, which is crazy to think about, but those are probably the bottom ones.
Well, let me throw one other thing out, and this is how crazy shit can happen. If I as I said, I think it's probable is what I would say that Georgia drops one of these games. I would rather them drop the Ole Miss game. So because it's out of conference, it'd be towards the end of the
Well,
year.
it's not out of conference; it's in conference.
Well, I'm out of the division.
Sure, you wouldn't have to worry about the tiebreaker shit.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
and I think we'd still get the SEC championship, and it might motivate this team. Like, hey,
there's
as
no more
Kirby
room
says,
here.
humility is a week away. We can't play with our fucking food anymore. We got to go get this stuff if we want to get where we're wanting to go. So I'm not wanting them to lose, but if they are going to lose, I don't want them to lose to Missouri in the East, Florida in the East, or Tennessee in the East. Let's wrap up the East.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I don't know. I'm just not. I could be really wrong. I really could be, but I think there's a point. I was listening, and I don't know how much stock you should put in this stuff, but the past 2 years, I've heard this from players whenever I would, brown nose with them. I listened to Tate and Zion Logue's podcast yesterday. And it is really funny because it's the same thing the past 2 years, but it wasn't that way in 2020. But the bye week, they were talking about how improved their practices have been, that their practices have met the standard
during the bye week.
during the bye week, and how the younger guys have really stepped up and are really good. How the team is starting to feel like the team. The practices have been up to the standard and better. Um, and Zion Logue said, "Well, I know roughly. I'm roughly quoting. He's like, I know, a lot. Everyone says, well, after our bye week, I feel really good at where we're at. He goes, but I really do feel good at where we're at, and that to me means more than anything else. I think this Georgia team has been kind of playing rope a dope.
I hope.
I do.
Um, well, we'll know that coming up. We'll know
We'll know
what kind
that
of
by
team.
7:30 Eastern Standard Time Saturday.
Yeah. Well,
We'll get a better picture for sure.
if Georgia can put together back-to-back really solid games, right? That to me would show me that okay, they've all of this is starting to come together. That's the problem. You play two really good quarters, and then you take a quarter off or a half off, and then you have fumbles and turnovers and miscues and people scoring in the red zone, and then you have flashes of brilliance and fourth quarter comebacks. But it's just not been the consistent level of play that would lead me to believe that we're just going to dominate, and which this team is not the same team as the last couple of years. You don't lose that many players in the NFL and continue to be that dominant, but just consistent good play. Is what I would be. Back-to-back games would be great.
I would agree with that. All right, so let's get into before we get into score predictions because we got a little bit more time. Because people actually have been watching, like sticking with us and watching this, so congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, that actually does do something for us. So continue doing that. Let's go with best and worst memories of the Georgia Florida series.
The Malcolm Mitchell score, that was after the long drought under Rick. That was that one, and Edwards turning the corner. Robert Edwards turning the corner and winning under Donnan. That was another big one that I remember. You got to remember, I grew up in the '90s when Steve Spurrier used to just stomp us and then laugh about it. I heard a story that Jim Donnan told last night. I don't know if I should tell that story. Where Steve Spurrier came up to him before the game, and he was like, "Hey, Jimmy, what do you think about our blue pants?" Jim Donnan looked at him. He goes, "I don't give a shit about what kind of pants you're wearing." But anyway, those two are as far as memories of good. I don't know what year it was, but it was 90, may have been 97.
No, 97 is the year that they won
the national championship.
No. 97 was the year that they beat Florida.
No, it was after that. Man. When was anyway? It was the late 90s. I'm trying to think what year it was. Anyway, I went down to the game in Jacksonville, and I was only like 5 minutes late because I tailgated a little too long. And I was only like 5 minutes after kickoff, and as soon as I remember walking into the stadium, I looked, and it was already 21-0, and Jeez. It was just really demoralizing to have to sit there and watch that, and then walk out of that stadium with all those Florida fans, and then take your whipped ass back home, drive that long drive. It was not a great experience. I don't know exactly what year it was, but it was during Spurrier.
Yeah. I have two. I know I wrote about the 2012. If you want to check that out, if you haven't, go check it out. I wrote about that, but I think that probably my two favorite games in the series are actually very recently. They're back-to-back years. 2021, That game, those 2 minutes there where we just scored 24 points in like 2 minutes.
Right.
That was great. That I still remember. It's October 30th, 2021. It's probably the second greatest day of my life. It used to be number one, and I gotta tell you, it's a close second. And then you had the Braves that day. And that's whenever Dansby and Soler hit those back-to-back home runs to win us Game 4 and get us up
Those
3.
are always special. Yeah, those are special days. And you got the Braves and Georgia playing.
Yeah, that was probably one of the greatest sport days of my life. Has to be. I don't think there will ever be a day like that ever again. And Georgia was number one, and we kicked the shit out of Florida. That felt really. And it was Dan Mullen, and it was his last year. I mean, that's the reason why he got fired. That was fantastic. And then last year, going to the game, I think that was a good experience. Uh, um,
I don't know if you would. I don't know if you would have said that in the third quarter whenever they started making a push.
No, I was having bad flashbacks, and it just felt like, of course it would be my Georgia Florida, seeing it in person, and then they beat us like that.
I don't want to go down, but that game convinced me that Georgia could win the national championship because when they decided to put their foot back on the gas again,
They just crushed them.
They just crushed them, took all their hope away.
Yeah, I just the experience going in, seeing what it was like. I mean, we've talked. I think it should stay in Jacksonville. But the thing is, me and you went to the stadium way too early, but also there was nothing to do.
No, Jacksonville,
because we didn't have a tailgate, and Jacksonville's a dump, which made it all the better. Honestly, the experience, because it was such a shit hole of a city, it made the experience way better. Like, we ate at a really nice Italian restaurant in a public strip mall. It was so Florida, it hurt me. It was a really good. I just enjoyed that part of it. And the pregame festivities were fun too. So
that's the thing. Jacksonville just doesn't do that. They don't seem like they want the game there. And until they can say that all they want, that, oh no, we want it. We're going to care. We're going to do this. But until they start putting some action around that, unless you're going to go out in that giant parking lot and sit out there and drink beer on pavement all day in Jacksonville, there's just not. I mean, our hangout in St. Simon's or Jekyll and then drive into the game, there's just not a whole lot of activities to do around it. And getting an Uber out of that place and trying to get out of it was awful.
Yeah, and our hotel was right across the street from a Dave & Buster's, and that was the only place to eat that was open. Yes. We had dinner at a Dave & Buster's.
That was a 3:30 game. It wasn't like we were out burning midnight oil,
No, that was a crazy experience. And probably the worst, I wrote about this, but that was Halloween of 2009. That was one of the worst. That's when Georgia came out with the black helmets and the black pants. That was ugly uniforms. That game was ugly. Georgia never had a shot in that game. Tim Tebow broke Herschel Walker's career rushing touchdown record. I didn't trick or treat that day because it completely ruined it for me. I could hear people celebrating down the street from us that were Florida fans. It really stung me. I never went trick or treating again, and that was in 4th grade. That's probably one of the worst. Honestly, that's really where all my hatred from Florida comes from.
I hate Florida.
That was a terrible experience. And then Tim Tebow, I don't care how godly of a man he is and how good of a guy he is. I hate him. I yelled at him whenever I saw him at the national championship. I don't care.
I don't hate him. I don't like Urban Meyer and Steve Spurrier when he was a coach there drove my ass crazy and pain in the ass. But out of all the rivals, I think you and I are like the vast majority of Georgia fans.
Yeah,
Florida is my least favorite team.
Yeah, and honestly, it brings me so much. It can't be a verb, I guess. Is Schadenfreude a noun or a verb or an adjective?
Adjective.
Well, anyway, it brings me a lot of Schadenfreude. I take a lot of Schadenfreude whenever I see a little Florida fan crying because Georgia beat them. There's nothing better than seeing that. When CBS does that, I would pay, I don't know, if I had a compilation, I'm sure there's some compilation out there on YouTube. I would pay at least $10 to watch it every day. I love that. just the greatest thing ever.
CBS can just come to your house and film you if Georgia loses. That Florida fans can get Schadenfreude.
Yeah, I guess they can. Yeah, I will be
You want to
crying.
see a grown man cry,
Yeah.
cuddled up in the corner in a fetal position.
Uh,
Let's hope that doesn't happen. But
no,
the Bauta game was also
yeah,
that
that
was a
was a
low.
terrible.
That
That was
was
a terrible game.
yeah.
I told we're coming down to watch the game with you. I told Danielle, like if Georgia does lose on the off chance, don't bother me. We'll get up. We'll just leave Sunday.
Yeah.
There's no talking to me. There's no nothing.
It'll be a day of or a week of mourning.
Yeah, there's just no need to even do that. But Georgia's not going to lose. So with that, nice little intro, nice segue. I am a professional. Let's get into our score predictions. What we think. You can give stat lines if you really are tickled to do that.
No, I don't know what that means exactly. I'll tell you what I'll give my score.
Okay, give your score. Oh, wait. Let me get this down. Good radio right here. That way we can come back to it. Oh,
well,
okay.
we haven't been close one, or I haven't. I don't know about.
I've been close. I've been close a couple times.
So
Kentucky, I was close. I know.
I'm going to say 37-24 Georgia.
Okay. So wait a minute. You're saying Georgia barely doesn't cover.
Yeah.
So you're saying
I think Georgia's going to win by between 10 and 13 points.
so let me ask you this. So Georgia's probably going to have a 3 touchdown or at least 3 possession score. And then Florida's going to backdoor cover. Is that what you're saying? A late touchdown just to make it look better? Or are you saying Georgia scores late and makes the score?
Pulls it away. Yeah, puts it soft.
You think that way? Okay. Well, I would go the other way. I've actually college football nerds. I think are the closest to this. They do it by the computer model. The computer model had it 34-12 Georgia or 35-12 Georgia.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then they had one guy had it 40-17 and the other guy had it 38-17. I think that's probably closer to what the final score is.
What,
I think
38-7?
No, it was 40 or 38-17.
Okay.
That was one of the final scores. I think that's closer to the final score. I think it's going to be Georgia 42. I think Florida. I'm debating between 38 or 42. I don't know which way I fall, but I'll take the bigger number. So 42, Florida. I'll go 17. I don't really like that. I would go 10, but maybe they score a late touchdown. So 42-17.
All right. Well, do you lock in your score and mine?
Blocking in mine. I also think Dejon Edwards goes over for 100 yards. I think Carson Beck throws for over 300. And I wouldn't be shocked if Oscar Delp gets a touchdown and has over 70 yards catching.
I was going to say five or six catches, 50 to 70 yards.
Yeah, and then everyone in the country will be like, "Oh wow, who's this Oscar Delp? He's really good." And we'll have to.
What I'm really looking for is a clean game, no turnovers, don't give Florida a chance, to have life in this game. Do what you're supposed to do, based on what the paper says.
Yeah. They're closing thoughts. If Georgia doesn't turn the ball over, plays a clean game, doesn't commit stupid penalties, because Florida will. They just will.
It's going to be hard for Florida to beat.
It will be a massacre if they do that. If Georgia turns over the ball, Georgia's defense better get a turnover or two, because it will be closer. Georgia, and here's the other thing. Georgia, when we turn over the ball, we turn the ball over in the plus territory. There has not been once where we have turned the ball over where it's not plus territory.
Yeah, you're making it easy on the offense to score.
Yeah. So that if those things happen, That is a path to victory for Florida, but it would be damn hard to pull that off. So with that, check out Don the Dog. I'll basically just rewrite this podcast in Word format, then put it on Don the Dog Friday. I have to write another blog whenever we get off this.
Am I going to be one of the guys at the coffee shop?
You might be. I mean, you were a couple times. So you're giving all away my trade secrets, man. And then so check that out. I got to write another blog tonight after this call, so I'm going to make a case for keeping the game in Jacksonville, which I wrote like months ago, but no one remembers. And then if you need shipping and you live in the Atlanta or Georgia area, United.
You don't have to be. My office is in Atlanta. You don't have to be in Atlanta to do
whatever.
We're
If you're in
nationwide,
Kokomo,
baby.
yeah. Anyway, just Unishippers Atlanta. All right. See y'all then.
See ya.